Hello, everyone. Hope you guys are having a wonderful day. Today, we're having the first podcast of this channel, and we have a very, very special guest, a very strong guest. She is one of the most toughest women that I know personally. And let me introduce you to Shivangi Sarda. She is from Jaipur, and she is a certified strength and conditioning coach. When I received her CV, it was just full of a lot of achievements, and the kind of achievements that not a lot of people would actually dream of. So let me just begin talking about a little about her achievements. Okay, so the biggest thing is that she is the youngest female Ironman finisher from Rajasthan, and she just recently did that in Hamburg in Germany. She's going to talk about more about completing Ironman and preparing for Ironman during the podcast. And besides this, she's also completed IDBI full marathon in 2020. She's also the youngest female Ironman, the half Ironman finisher from Rajasthan. She did that in Shanghai in 2019. And she's finished a lot of other races in India and in Melbourne. So over to Shivangi. I was very excited about this podcast, and I want the listeners also, to learn a lot about sports nutrition, to learn about how to go about, preparing yourself mindset-wise for such a tough thing. I know a lot of people who have done like half Ironman, but honestly, not a single person except you, who's completed like the full marathon. So let's start from the beginning. Okay, so how did you get into sports?
Yeah, firstly, thank you for inviting. I'm excited to be the first guest in your podcast. So hopefully we end up helping people. So in terms of starting my sports journey, it started long back. I think I was 6 or 7 years old, and it was just part of how we had those summer camps back in school. And my parents really encouraged me and everybody else to like take up sports just as part of extracurricular. So I still remember I'm from NGD, Jaipur, but I joined St. Xavier's School. And I still remember, playing there with seniors and everybody. So that was my journey into sports, just as part of summer camp. Then I, learned skating, tennis, and, just continued playing different sports at that age, which probably helped me develop some, abilities, which is why it's important to start young. Then I just got interested in cricket and basketball. Those are my two major sports. So I used to play cricket. I played for Rajasthan as well, and basketball. But I chose basketball, as my major sport, and then I continued playing till college. So I got into my university because of my sports, Delhi University. And I continued playing. Running was not a major part of my training. I took that very later in my life.
Okay, so what really inspired you to take up running? I think, was it like your experience in Australia, or, was it something else?
Definitely. So, running was a part of my training back in school. Like for basketball, we would like generally get punished and we used to go for rounds. I think that was something common. So I used to run a bit. I was in athletics as well, but it was more short distance. Like I was part of the 4 into 100 meters relay team in my school. I did 1500 meters as well. So that was part of my routine, but I never thought I'll take it up the way it has now become a part of my lifestyle. So after college, I moved to Australia for my MBA in marketing and sports marketing. And there, it was a very different culture where, say, weekends, I would see people just out there hiking or, doing some sort of sporting activity. So that was something very interesting that, even if you're meeting for breakfast, it was after a run or a ride or something, like some kind of activity. And then I took it up just purely for fitness. I would do like 4 kilometers, 5 kilometers, and I was more into gymming. So more of say weightlifting and other things. Then I participated in one 5K just for fun. That was in Australia, just to see if I can do the distance. And as they say, you need to start and then there's no end to how much you want to do, how far you want to go in running.
So when you went to Australia to do your master's, to do your MBA in sports management, was it always your plan to come back to India, or was there something which basically pushed you or inspired you to come back to India and then start your coaching here?
So I went for my MBA in marketing actually. So it was not a sports specific MBA. But then when I reached there, I took permission from my university, Deakin University, and I chose sports marketing as one of my majors. So then I got more interested in sports. In terms of coming back, I got into a corporate job. So that was like the pathway after MBA. But I always wanted to do something in sports and fitness, and that was something that was like always sticking. Even though I'm like sitting at work, I would like search about fitness or something back in India. So it wasn't the plan, but it was like a strong feeling that I wanted to come back and try something in fitness and sports back home.
Okay, so how has been your journey, after you've come back from India?
So I came back in 2019. Neither running marathons nor doing a triathlon was part of the plan. I actually didn't know what a triathlon was before I came back, surprisingly. So I came back, I was still working for my corporate company. I took permission and, I was working remotely because I wasn't sure if I want to stay back or I want to go back. So I was working remotely for them for 6 months and they were kind enough to, allow me to do so. So I came back, I started with remote fitness kind of a service where I would go to different locations and I would train people. So I just wanted to also be sure that if I'm, it's something that excites me and something that I'm good at. So for 6 months I did that. Then I was sure I want to get into this. So I resigned from my company. Then I got full time into this. Then COVID happened. So, that was a challenge. But then I remember one of my clients reached out to me that can I do something online for her? And that's when online fitness, something that I started exploring. And I think it's growing every day. I think it's a great country to be in here for fitness right now.
All right. So, what made you decide that you want to, eventually do Ironman? Or I think, to do the full Ironman, you have to first complete the half Ironman, right? So, what really pushed you in that direction?
So I've always been interested in endurance, and I've always done even running like a 50 kilometers was purely because I just wanted to see what I can do as a human being in terms of endurance and fitness. So I believe that human body is capable of doing a lot, and that is what I wanted to explore. So I was doing 10Ks and half marathons and stuff. So I have a mentor who himself is an Ironman. He told me that why don't you sign up for a triathlon, and I said okay. So what do I have to do in a triathlon? We were just having a conversation over coffee. Thinking of what next for me. So he said you have to swim 1.9, that is for 70.3. He's like you have to swim 1.9 kilometers, bike 90 kilometers and run 21.1. And I was like, wow, that is very challenging, that's exciting. Because I'm not a swimmer. I used to swim back in school just for fitness. Plus it's open water swimming. I had no experience of open water and I did not even have a bike. So it's something that I have no equipment as well for the same. I said sure, I should try for it. So I signed up just as a challenge because I like taking challenges in terms of fitness. So I think that's when 2019 I managed my half and I was also surprised crossing the finish line. Then again COVID happened. Of course after 70.3 you have two options, either work on improving your speed or your timing for the event, the same distance, or you go for the next challenge. So for me, timing is not a very big criteria. I like to enjoy the sport. So I think doing an Ironman was the second step. So that was something that inspired me to sign up for it.
Okay, so you did your half Ironman in 2019, right? And then it took you 4 years to prepare for the full Ironman, or was it? Or was there a lot in between that happened? So just tell us about that.
Yeah. So 2019 I did the 70.3 and then I think 2020 is when the lockdown started, if I'm not wrong.
Yes, 2020 March.
Yeah. So after that you need some time kind of recovery, after you've done a long endurance event. So I took 1-2 months to just relax and just recover. I did not have any immediate plan of signing up for an Ironman. The plan was to just work on fitness and do some running events. So then I signed up for a marathon. I did a marathon, virtual marathon. And then during COVID, of course, there were no events. So, that time it was very confusing for everybody what to do. But I still maintained my fitness. I used to run on the terrace, which of course is not the best idea because I had some injuries after that. I signed up for some virtual events. So no plan of doing another triathlon after that. But I signed up for a 50 kilometers run. That was something that was exciting. So I did that, and then after that you question yourself what next, like, because I thought I'll do an Ironman, say, once I'm like 40, 45, like, just generally that's what they say, that when you're like, 40, around that time you can go for a full Ironman. But I thought, why not? Like, I saw a lot of people doing it at a younger age, so then I signed up for it. Yeah.
Fantastic. Okay, so now I would like to ask you questions about like the diet and the training part, about preparing for the triathlon, the big event that I'm talking about, the 2023, the full Ironman. So could you just talk a little bit about how your diet was like? What were the major components, like in terms of carbs, protein, and fats? Like, was it like carbs 60% or 70%? Because, it is an endurance event, right? So you need like a lot of energy for that. So how much focus was on carbs and proteins and fats, and then, the timings of it? And let's say, somebody who does not have as many resources, to prepare for a triathlon, but wants to still do a full marathon, which is 41, 42 kilometers. And that's quite a lot. And that's still a big, very big challenge, right? So how would you advise somebody who wants to do that, but does not really have the resources to go about, maybe hiring like a professional coach or, stuff like that? So
to break it into nutrition wise, it's going to be two aspects. One is what you eat during the day and what you eat during the training and before and after. So it's a little complicated that is, but I did not hire a professional a nutritionist because I have studied nutrition as part of my course as well. So I thought it's a good idea to learn. Now, in terms of nutrition, I'm a vegetarian. I don't even consume eggs, fish, nothing. So it's purely veg food that I consume. That is, I do consume dairy, but that's also not like a major chunk. But like for my protein, I'll have paneer and stuff. So in terms of nutrition, to start off with, I'll talk about the day. Of course, your calorie has to increase a lot because you're doing a lot of volume. So like you end up training like say 12 to 14 to 16 hours in a week, which is quite a lot. And all different sports like swimming, cycling, running, or if you're just talking about even a marathon, you will end up like, if you want to do a 42.2, you will end up at least training 5 to 6 days a week. And for such sports, I personally feel carbs work best for me. There are some people who prefer keto diet, but that's not something that I have explored. But I do believe in carbs working better for me in terms of endurance. So it was majorly home food. I would during the day have a proper basic breakfast, which was slightly more in terms of carbs, like poha, or I'll have like toast or something. But I always made sure there's some component of protein because that's extremely important for your recovery. So I would have that. There's a smoothie which I would have every day. There was nothing that would change in that, and I started adding a little bit of coconut oil in that to increase my fat intake. As my training increased, I had to increase a little bit of fat content. So that was one. Lunch would be basic to chapatis or a little bit of rice, but there would be a little bit of dal and your vegetables. And then there would be a snack which will be like fruits with nuts. So nuts for your fat, essential fats, and some kind of carbs. And dinner would generally be light unless it was next day, a long training session. So it would change a lot as to what I'm doing next morning as well. So in terms of components or, giving percentage, it's going to be difficult because everybody's body is different, body composition is different. So I cannot give you numbers because say if you are training for it, if your height, weight, everything it comes out to be different for you and different for me. Absolutely. But I made sure I balance it out. And of course, it was a lot of hit and try. Like after say 3 weeks, I started feeling a little bit of fatigue. So I realized that probably I'm not eating enough. So that's when I started adding the coconut oil. Because you end up losing a lot of muscle when you're doing endurance. So your food has to be at top level for you to train as much. Yeah.
Right. So did you also take support of any sort of blood tests before and during the training for Ironman? And what were those blood tests and what did you really find out? And once you had the results of those blood tests, what kind of changes did you make accordingly? Can you please talk more about that?
So blood test is something that I do even if I'm not training for a big event. I generally do it at the start of the year and mid-year because even if you're training for say just for 21 kilometers and being a vegetarian also, and then a lot of other factors because my work is also very physical. Like I don't really get rest. I'm like always active. So I make sure I do it even if I'm not training for a big event, I look at my B12, vitamin D. That's something that's extremely important, because lack of that, sometimes, some people, they complain of cramps in their calf muscles, and sometimes it could be lack of vitamin D. So, those factors. So these were the basic factors which I look at. But yeah, when I saw that, everything is under control, I do supplement myself. Like there was no deficiency as such, but I generally regularly take like a flaxseed oil supplement. So that's omega-3, because I prefer a vegetarian vegan source. Then I'll take a B12 regularly, and I'll take a vitamin D plus calcium tablet alternate days. So these were the 3 supplements which I take regularly, and during the training, I just increased magnesium for my recovery. So in the night, I would take a magnesium tablet just to increase my recovery.
Okay.
So yeah, these are the supplements. Other than that, I took vegan protein powder because I had to supplement that. I prefer that for myself. I mean, people can take whey protein or whatever they prefer, but I consume vegan protein. I increased that as the volume. So the volume is the number of hours of training increased. So I had to increase my protein intake as well, with of course carbs. So say I was taking 1 scoop in my first block of training the first month, I had to increase it to say 2 when I started feeling that the training volume has increased a lot. So those changes will be there all throughout, when you're training for an event. It'll change as per when you're going closer to the event. You reduce your protein intake and you increase your carb intake. So, we cycle it according to the event date.
Okay, got it. Okay, so what was really the bigger challenge? Was it the mental challenge, which really kind of bogged you down a little bit, or was it the physical one, or was it like a combination of both?
I mean, of course, it's a combination, but for me, I'll say more mental, because in terms of physical, I have been in sports for a long time. So, that discipline and that consistency is something that I know that if this week has to be like 10 sessions, I know I'll make sure I'll do it. Mental, yes, because you're doing the same thing over and over again. Plus, my work also is like all physical. So, sometimes you're like, okay, you're taking a training session for your clients, and, you're doing the same thing, like, the same squats and everything for your strength session. So that gets challenging. But for me, the biggest challenge is fear of open water. So to overcome that was like, it took a lot of visualization, a lot of, journaling, and a lot of writing, I guess. So fear of open water is something that's very big for me. I'm not an efficient swimmer. So when I started training, I think after 4 weeks, I almost was like, I cannot make the time cutoff, because each discipline has a time cutoff. Swimming, you're supposed to swim 3.8 kilometers in 2 hours, 20 minutes. So you've got that cutoff which you have to make. And I was literally swimming like I would just make the cutoff. So, that was a challenge. So, to just focus on that, focus on the form a little bit, because, you need to improve that to improve your speed. So that was one. Second, I think considering cycling, going outdoors in India is a challenge. Every time you step out, you're like, okay, hopefully you come back safe. So when I had like long rides, like when I had to start like at 3 or 4 a.m. in the morning and go outside, like the night before I could not sleep, because, I was so anxious, anything can go wrong, right?
Yeah.
So that was another mental thing. Other than that, running, I'm comfortable because that I really enjoy. So I think these 2 were the biggest barriers mentally for me.
Okay, and how did you progress with your training? Like, and for how long did you really train yourself for Ironman? In the sense that, let's say you've decided today that you'll be training for Ironman. So how many months did you give yourself, and how did you take your training in those months in the future?
So last year I've been doing a lot of running volume. So I was actually training for the Mumbai Marathon, just to so I was running a lot anyway. Before that I was doing a faster half marathon. So running base was there, and strength training is something that I do all throughout the year. Like that's something that I enjoy and I feel helps a lot. So I decided. So there was a Goa swimathon that happens in January. So I thought I'll just go do that because that's in open water, and that was like 2.4 kilometers event which I participated in. So I just wanted to do that, do the open water and see how I feel, and that's when I thought that okay, I can sign up for it. So that's when I decided. That's in January. So January 2023. So January, so that was a swim which I started with. Then I was doing the Mumbai Marathon, that is in January. So like swimming and this, I was like, okay, sure, now I can now progress. So February 1st was actually when I really started training. So it was a 4-month training block. That's when I started riding regularly. In terms of training, it is similar. If you're doing a marathon or whatever you're doing, you're just building a base in the first 3 weeks where you're like, slowly and gradually increasing the load weekly. So yeah, I think the first 4 weeks was just to get used to all the sports again, because every sport requires different muscle and different kind of training. And yeah, so after like 6-7 weeks is when my peak started, where you do a lot of brick sessions as well. Brick is when you do, say, a ride and followed by a run back to back. So you have to practice those sessions as well. Yeah, so it was almost 12 to 16 weeks long for me to do the Ironman.
And for how long? For how many hours did you really practice? In the months or the weeks just before the main race.
So I mean, I don't know in terms of hours, but my longest session was definitely around 7 hours. I remember. So it was like a 150-kilometer ride followed by I think a 15-kilometer run. So that was like 7 to 8 hours is the longest one training that I've done. Other than that, I was almost training like 12 to 16 hours weekly. So that is including all the 3 disciplines in my strength. So yeah, I mean, that of course changed. Like, there was like 1 recovery week. So like we would do 3 weeks of hard training, which is applied in even marathon mostly. So you do like 3 weeks of hard training and then one week you take recovery, both for mental and physical aspects. And then again you peak. So yeah, it would change according to which block I'm in.
Okay, so basically it takes a hell lot of time to prepare for Ironman. And we've kind of understood the time cost of preparing for the race, but let's talk about the financial cost, because this is a major one, and people would actually like to understand what does it really take, how much does it really take to prepare for something so ambitious.
Yeah, so I mean, definitely it does take a lot of resources, both in terms of time and money, because signing up for a full Ironman event will generally cost around 50 grand plus, 54,000. Depends also on which country you're traveling, because in India we just have the 70.3 right now that happens in Goa, but for the full you generally have to travel abroad. So cost wise, the event will cost you this much. A decent bike, so mine is a Ridley, which is also a good bike, which I used it for my 70.3. But for this one, a friend of mine, he lended me his bike. So a decent bike would cost you like 1 plus. That's a very basic level.
Yeah.
The nutrition, of course, when you're paying for your protein and other supplements, so it comes out to be say like generally like 5 to 6 grand a month. So in terms of cost, anywhere around, if you have a bike already, you are looking at with your nutrition, with your gear, because you need a tri-suit, you need a watch and other things, like around easy 1.5 lakh. And then your travel and stay, of course, separate, because you want to reach say 3 to 4 days prior to the event to register and get you to the environment and other things.
Absolutely.
So yeah.
Okay, got it. So now coming back to the question of sports nutrition, how do you think the world of sports nutrition is coming up in India? And this is a question for myself, from somebody who is already in the field. Okay, so I am currently basically in the field of disease management. So so that can be done through weight management or by changing the diet to help people with their diabetes, hypertension, or any other cardiovascular issues. But sports nutrition is something which is completely different. And we have a lot of sportsmen coming up in the country now. I think it's looking pretty exciting. But at the same time, I also feel that there is a lot more that needs to be done. For Olympians, for serious athletes. So what do you think? The whole field of sports nutrition. If somebody wants to take it up, is it a good idea? And if not, then what is your perspective on this whole thing?
So definitely, how you said, it's a very, very exciting time for us to be in India in sports and fitness. Not just in terms of nutrition, like even as a trainer, I feel that there is growth. People are now looking forward to say being healthy, and they want to know the facts and they want to follow not like fad diets, which is something that that everybody is following some some keto, whatever, they don't want to follow the trend. They want to now have a sustainable approach.
Yeah.
So in terms of sports nutrition specifically, the demand is increasing because people are realizing the importance of nutrition. So it's not just that you keep running and you will get the result, right? It has to be a balance of both. Nutrition not only helps you perform, but it helps you with recovery, which is extremely important for you to not get injured, right? So people are happy to invest in a good coach, a good nutritionist as well. So definitely, if somebody is looking at starting their career, that's important. But I feel still it is a niche. Not everybody will spend a lot of money, especially on nutrition, because if they're hiring another coach. So it's a good idea that you have how you have one specialization, that's disease management. So you're looking at general population, but you do in 3-4 years down the line specialize in sports as well, so that you've got an umbrella of services to provide.
Yes.
Yeah, and then so that's what I do for my training as well. I have got general population as well. That's something that I enjoy. I see that there's a change in people, their lifestyle. But also I do train athletes as well, because that's also a very challenging area where you can improve the performance of an athlete. Yes. So that's also something that I enjoy. So I've got everything. So I think that is a smart way to go rather than just jumping into a specialization. Because anyway, you will need the basic knowledge as well. Even if you're training an athlete as a nutritionist, you will need the basic knowledge, which will help you in general population as well.
Right. Okay. So, you also have a startup, which is Fitness Trail, right? And so I would want you to talk more about that. And I would also want you to tell me more about, what is next for Shivangi Sarda.
Yeah. So 2019 is when I started Fitness.Trail. The idea was just to change the perspective of fitness, and especially being a national level basketball player. I've been in fitness and sports all throughout my life, but the only thing which people would point out was how fat am I, right? How bulky am I? Why am I not losing weight? And those were the kind of questions before I went out, before I moved to Australia. Those questions, they would I used to think about it. Oh, why am I not losing weight? So I left potato for a long time. I left rice for a long time because apparently that makes you fat. So I'd been through that journey where I would step on a weighing scale morning, evening, and if there was even 500 grams of difference, it would just make me crazy.
Yeah.
So I'd been there myself, but when I went out, I saw that it's not about. Of course, you need to be at a healthy weight to be healthy in general, but it's not about how fat you're looking or whatever, right? It's about being active and adopting a healthy lifestyle. So that's what I wanted to change, especially for women when I came back to India, that just don't think about how fat you are and start lifting weights, because that was something nobody did. So I myself started lifting weights when I went abroad. So yeah, that was the whole idea. So I came back, I started. I do have offline because I've got my studio, but I do have a major chunk of people I train online. So it ranges from general population to general athletes to people who want to do their first marathon or a half marathon. So I've got a range of services, and also I've collaborated with a few people who are specialized in their field, like a nutritionist. I've got a yoga instructor, so we work together.
Got it. Okay, so for all the viewers here, if you are planning to participate in a marathon, or if you're preparing for something bigger, I'm going to be putting all the details of Shivangi, all her Instagram, LinkedIn, and wherever she's present in the description section below. So you please feel free to reach out to her. And so yeah, it was a great conversation, Shivangi, and thank you for coming. Thank you for being our first guest, and I'm sure that all the viewers have found it very, very useful in their pursuit of endurance sport. So thank you for coming once again, and it was great talking to you.
Thank you. I really enjoyed, and definitely I hope that people are able to find some help out of this. So yeah, thank you for inviting me. It was really, really nice chatting.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.